The following will be a reading of Emanuel Swedenborg's Heaven and Its Wonders and Hell. Chapter 1, Concerning Heaven and Hell. Where the Lord, in the presence of his disciples, speaks about the consummation of the age, which is the last period of the Church, towards the end of the predictions regarding its successive states with respect to love and faith, he says this: Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a trumpet and a great voice, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. Matthew 14:29-31. Those who understand these words in accordance with the sense of the letter have no other belief than that at the final period, which is called the Last Judgment, all those events will occur as described in that sense. Therefore they believe not only that the sun and moon will be darkened, and the stars will fall from heaven, that the sign of the Lord will appear in the sky, and that he himself will be seen in the clouds, as well as angels with trumpets, but also, as is foretold elsewhere, that the whole visible earth will be destroyed, after which a new heaven with a new earth will come into being. Such is the opinion of most men within the Church at the present day. But those who so believe do not know that the arcana which lie concealed in every particular of the Word. For in every particular of the Word there is an internal sense, in which are discerned not the natural and worldly matters such as are in the sense of the letter, but spiritual and heavenly things. Moreover, this is true not only of the meaning of groups of words, but it is also true of every single word. For the word has been written by means of pure correspondences, to the end that the internal sense may be in every particular. The nature of that sense can be confirmed from all that has been said and known about it, shown about it in Arcana Celestia. Also from what has been summarized in the explanation of the white horse mentioned in Revelation. It is in accordance with that sense that the words of the Lord quoted above concerning his coming in the clouds of heaven are to be understood. In that passage, by the sun which is to be darkened is signified the Lord as to love, by the moon and the Lord as to faith, by the stars cognitions of good and truth or of love and faith, by the sign of the Son of Man in heaven the manifestation of divine truth, by the tribes of the earth which shall mourn all things relating to truth and good, or to faith and love, by the coming of the Lord in the clouds of heaven with power and glory, his presence in the Word and Revelation, by clouds that signify the sense of the letter of the Word, and by glory the internal sense of the words, by angels with a trumpet and great voice, the signified heaven whence comes divine truth. Thence it is evident by those words of the Lord is meant that in the end of the Church, when there is no longer any love and consequently no faith, the Lord will open the Word in its internal sense and reveal arcana of heaven. The arcana now revealed in the following pages treat of heaven and hell, and at the same time of man's life after death. The man of the Church at this day knows scarcely anything about heaven and hell or about his life after death, although they are all set forth and described in the Word. Indeed, many people born within the Church even deny them, saying in their hearts, "Who has come from that world and told us?" Lest therefore such a negative attitude, which prevails especially with those who have much worldly wisdom, should also infect and corrupt the simple in heart and the simple in faith, it has been granted to me to associate with angels and to talk with them as man with man, also to see the things in the heavens as well as in the hells, and this for 13 years. Now therefore from what I have seen and heard I am permitted to describe these things, in the hope that thus ignorance may be enlightened and unbelief dispelled. Such immediate revelation is now made because it is what is meant by the coming of the Lord. The Lord is the God of heaven. The first essential is to know who the God of heaven is, since everything else depends upon that. Throughout the whole of heaven no other than the Lord alone is acknowledged as the God of heaven. There they declare as he himself taught. that he is one with the Father, that the Father is in him, and he in the Father, that he who sees him sees the Father, and that everything that is holy goes forth from him. John 10:30, 38, 14:10, 11, 16:13-15. I have quite often talked with angels on this matter, and they have constantly declared that in heaven they are unable to distinguish the divine into three, because they know and perceive that the divine is one, and that it is one in the Lord. They even said that people who come from this world, from the church, having an idea of three divine beings, cannot be admitted into heaven, because their thought wanders from one to another, and it is not allowable there to think of three and say one. This is because everyone in heaven speaks from a thought, for there they have a cognitive speech, or thought speaking. Consequently, those who in this world have distinguished the divine into three, and have adopted a separate idea of each, and have not made that idea one in the Lord, and sensed it there, cannot be received. For in heaven they have communication of the thoughts of all, so that if anyone came there thinking of three and saying one, he would immediately be discovered and rejected. It ought to be known, however, that all those who have not separated truth from good, or faith from love, receive, when instructed in the other life, the heavenly idea of the Lord, that he is the God of the universe. As indeed otherwise with those who have separated faith from life, that is, who have not lived in accordance with the precepts of a true faith. Those within the church who have denied the Lord and have acknowledged only the Father, and have confirmed themselves in that faith, are outside heaven, and because no influx from heaven, where the Lord alone is worshipped, reaches them, they are gradually deprived of the faculty of thinking what is true about anything at all. At length they become as though they were dumb, or else they talk stupidly and wander about, with their arms dangling and swinging, as if lacking strength in their joints. In the same way, those who have denied the divinity of the Lord, and like the Socinians have acknowledged only his human, are outside heaven. They are brought forward a little towards the right, and let down into the deep, and are thus completely separated from the rest of those from the Christian world. Moreover, those who profess belief in an invisible divine, which they call the soul of the universe, from which all things came into existence, but who reject the faith regarding the Lord, are found to have no belief in any God, since to them this invisible divine is like nature in its first principles, which faith and love cannot reach, because it cannot be thought about. Such are relegated among those called naturalistic. Things happen in a different manner with those born outside the church and called Gentiles, of whom more will be said in subsequent pages. All little children, of whom a third part of heaven is formed, are initiated into the acknowledgement and faith that the Lord is their Father, and afterwards that he is the Lord of all, therefore God of heaven and earth. It will be seen in the following pages that little children grow up in the heavens, and by means of cognitions are perfected even to angelic intelligence and wisdom. Those who are from the church cannot doubt that the Lord is the God of heaven, for he himself taught that all things of the Father are his. Matthew 6:27, John 16:15, and 17:2, and that all power is given unto him in heaven and in earth. Matthew 28:18. He says, in heaven and in earth, because he who rules heaven rules the earth also, for the one depends upon the other. To rule heaven and earth means to receive from him every good pertaining to love, and every truth pertaining to faith, thus all intelligence and wisdom, and so all happiness, and sure, eternal life. This also the Lord taught when he said, He that believeth on the Son hath everlasting life. He that believeth not the Son shall not see life. John 3:36. Again, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he die, yet shall he live, and whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. John 6:25-26. And again, I am the way, the truth, and the life. John 14:6. There are certain spirits who, while they lived in the world, acknowledged the Father, without having any other idea of the Lord than as of another man, and who therefore did not believe that he was the God of heaven. For this reason they were permitted to wander about and inquire wherever they wished, whether there were any other heaven than the Lord's heaven. They searched for several days, but nowhere found any. These spirits were amongst such as placed the happiness of heaven in glory and in dominion, and because they could not get possession of what they desired, and were told that heaven does not consist of such things, they were indignant and wished to have a heaven where they could lord it over others and be eminent in a glory like that in the world. The divine of the Lord makes heaven. The angels taken collectively are called heaven because they constitute heaven, but yet it is the divine proceeding from the Lord which inflows with the angels and is received by them, that makes heaven in general and in part. The divine proceeding from the Lord is the good of love and the truth of faith. To the extent, therefore, that they receive good and truth from the Lord, in that measure they are angels, and in that measure they are heaven. Everyone in the heaven knows, believes, and even perceives that he wills and does nothing of good from himself, and that he thinks and believes nothing of truth from himself, but from the divine, thus from the Lord, and that the good and truth which are from himself are not good and true, because they have no life from the divine in them. The angels of the inmost heaven also clearly perceive and feel the influx, and more of it they receive, the more they seem to themselves to be in heaven, because the more are they in love and faith, and in the light of intelligence and wisdom, and in heavenly joy therefrom. Since all those states proceed from the divine of the Lord, and in these the angels have their heaven, it is clear that it is the divine of the Lord that makes heaven, and not the angels from anything of their proprium. This is the reason heaven in the Word is termed the dwelling place of the Lord, and his throne, and why those who are there are said to be in the Lord. The manner in which the divine proceeds from the Lord and fills heaven will be told in what follows. Angels, from their wisdom, go still further. They say that not only everything good and true is from the Lord, but everything of life as well. They confirm it by this, that nothing can come into existence from itself, but from something prior to itself. Therefore all things come into existence from a first, which they call the very being, of the life of all. Similarly, all things continue in existence. For continuing in existence is a perpetual coming into existence, and what is not held continually by intermediates in connection with the first disappears, and then is entirely dissipated. They say further that there is but one fountain of life, and that man's life is a stream therefrom, which, if it did not unceasingly come into existence from its fountain, would immediately flow away. Again, they say that from that one fountain of life, which is the Lord, nothing proceeds except divine good and divine truth, which affect each one in accordance with the reception. Those who receive them in faith and life find heaven in them, but those who reject and suffocate them turn them into hell, for they turn good into evil and truth into falsity, thus life into death. The fact also that everything of life is from the Lord they confirm by this, that all things in the universe have reference to good and truth, the life of a man's will, which is the life of his love, relating to good, and the life of a man's understanding, which is the life of his faith, relating to truth. Therefore, since everything good and true comes from above, it follows that so does everything of life. This being the belief of the angels, they refuse all thanks for the good that they do, and are indignant and withdraw if anyone attributes good to them. They are astonished that anyone believes that he is wise from himself, or does good from himself. Doing good for one's own sake they do not call good because it is from self, but doing good for the sake of good they call good from the divine, and they say, it is this good that makes heaven, because this good is the Lord. Such spirits as have confirmed themselves during their life in the world in the belief that the good that they do and the truth that they believe are from themselves, or are appropriated to them as their own, which is the belief of all who attach merit to good actions and claim righteousness to themselves, are not received into heaven. The angels avoid them, regarding them as stupid and as thieves. Stupid because they continually have themselves in view and not the divine. Thieves because they would take away from the Lord that which is his. These are opposed to the faith of heaven, that the divine of the Lord, present with the angels, makes heaven. The Lord also teaches that those who are in heaven and in the church are in the Lord, and the Lord is in them. When he says, abide in me and I in you, As the branch that cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine, no more can ye, except ye abide in me. I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me ye can do nothing. John 15:4-5. From these things it can now be established that the Lord dwells with the angels of heaven in what is his own, and thus that the Lord is the all in all things of heaven. The reason for this is that good from the Lord is the Lord with the angels, for that which is from him is himself. Similarly, it is plain that it is good from the Lord which is heaven for the angels, and not anything of their proprium.